He arrived late, holding two small hands, one in each of his. Both kids were giggling, full of energy, their eyes scanning the tiny cafe like it was an amusement park. The woman sitting at the table, waiting nervously, didn't expect this. She had signed up for a blind date, but this man didn't look like someone looking for love. He looked like a single father just trying to survive the day. And maybe, that was exactly who he wanted to be today. Jason Reed wasn't your average single father. He wasn't even your average man. At 37, he was the CEO of one of the country's fastest growing tech companies, worth millions, featured in Forbes, invited to conferences worldwide. But after losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, Jason shut the door on love. Everything he had was poured into his twin children, Ava and Aiden. But life gets lonely at the top. Jason's assistant, a woman more like a big sister than an employee, dared him one day, go on a date. No suits, no car, no private chef, just, go as you are. Like a normal man. So he did, and not just for himself, but to find someone who might care about the real him, not the headlines or the wealth. On the other side of the date was Clara, a 29-year-old kindergarten teacher who lived with her mother and younger brother. Life hadn't been kind to her either. Her father abandoned them years ago, and Clara stepped up to help raise her brother when her mother fell ill. Money was tight, and love, well, Clara didn't believe it existed in her world anymore. But her best friend had signed her up for the dating app as a joke, and somehow, she found herself saying yes to this mystery man. When she saw Jason walk in, jeans, worn-out sneakers, and 2 smiling kids, she almost stood up and walked away. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he gently bent down to tie his daughter's shoelace, or the shy smile he gave her as he walked toward her table. "Hi," he said, breathless. "Sorry I'm late, hope you don't mind, I brought my kids. Couldn't get a sitter." Clara blinked. No, that's okay." He ordered orange juice for the twins and a black coffee for himself. No flashy watch, no designer clothes. Just a man trying to make it through the day. He introduced himself simply as Jason. Just Jason. As they talked, Clara began to feel something she hadn't in a long time, comfort. Jason was attentive. He asked about her work, her family, her dreams. He didn't talk about money or success. Instead, he laughed when his son spilled juice, and whispered silly jokes into his daughter's ear until she laughed so hard the entire cafe turned to stare. And Clara, she was enchanted, not by wealth or power, but by sincerity. She found herself sharing things she hadn't told anyone in years. Like how she wished she could finish her degree, but there was never enough money. Or how she wanted to take her mother to the seaside, just once, before her illness got worse. Jason listened, not as a man with millions, but as someone who understood loss, responsibility, and silent sacrifices. After 2 hours of stories, giggles, and spilled crayons, the kids fell asleep in the booth. Clara gently pulled her shawl off and tucked it around them. Jason looked at her, truly looked at her, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir in his heart. But then, just as they were leaving, Clara turned to him with a question that froze him mid-step. "Why do I feel like you're hiding something?" Jason hesitated. He wasn't ready to tell her. "Not yet. I just wanted to meet someone who didn't see the bank account first." Clara didn't pry. She smiled softly. "That's fair." They exchanged numbers, and over the next few weeks, they kept meeting. Sometimes with the twins, sometimes just the two of them, quiet. Walks in the park, budget diners, bookshops, even picnics in the backyard. Jason kept his secret, but every time he looked into Clara's eyes, he knew it couldn't last forever. Clara, meanwhile, grew attached. Not to the man she thought Jason was, but to the kindness in his eyes, the way he fathered his kids, and the comfort she felt when she was near him. But everything changed on a rainy afternoon. Clara had just finished a long day at school when one of her students showed her a magazine with Jason's photo on the cover. "That's your boyfriend, right?" the girl asked. Clara froze. She laughed it off, but her heart was racing. The title under the photo read, "Jason Reed, Billionaire CEO Talks Love, Legacy, and Life After Loss." Her world spun. He hadn't just lied. He'd pretended to be someone else, just to test her. She didn't call him, didn't text him, didn't even reply when he messaged, "Can we talk?" Jason, realizing the truth had reached her, showed up at her school. Soaked in the rain, Holding a tiny bouquet of her favorite lilies, he waited at the gate like a teenager begging for forgiveness. She came out, saw him, and walked past him in silence. But he called after her. I didn't mean to lie. I needed to know if someone could love me, not the money. Not the title, just me. She stopped. Did you ever plan to tell me? She asked, voice trembling. Yes, every day, but the more I fell for you, the harder it got. I was scared I'd ruin the one real thing in my life. Tears ran down her cheeks. I opened my heart to you, Jason. I trusted you, not because of who you are, but because I thought you were honest. He looked broken. Give me one chance, please. Come to the park tomorrow. One last time. If you don't want to see me after that, I'll disappear. The next day, Clara stood at the park's edge, unsure whether she should go in. But something pushed her forward. What she saw melted every wall she'd built. Jason and the twins stood under a gazebo decorated with fairy lights. In front of them was a small whiteboard with drawings by Ava and Aiden. Please be our mommy. We love you. Jason stepped forward, eyes glistening. No more secrets. No more games. Just truth. I love you, Clara. And I want a life with you, not because I need someone, but because we need you. You've brought light back into our world. Clara fell to her knees and hugged the twins, tears falling freely. Then she stood, looked Jason in the eyes, and whispered, only if you promise to always bring them on our dates. He laughed, pulling her into a hug. Deal. Months later, Clara moved in with them, not into a mansion, but into a cozy home Jason had bought in a quiet neighborhood. Not because of wealth, but because that's where Clara felt happiest. She continued teaching, started her own reading initiative for underprivileged kids, something Jason funded quietly from behind the scenes. They never flaunted their wealth. They lived simply, together, and every weekend, the twins would climb into their bed early in the morning and whisper, "Best mommy ever." Because sometimes, love isn't about the riches you hide or the truths you reveal. Sometimes, love is about seeing someone, not for what they have, but for who they are when the world isn't watching. And sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales start with lies, but end with something more powerful. Forgiveness.